We've also got Michael with us, as always, in Vancouver. This is episode 90. That's 90. Brought to you by Lagmaster Sports Training Aids. I can't believe we've done so many episodes. Thanks for joining us today as we go through some of the current headlines, and we have a special guest. He is the golf writer for Sports Illustrated, author of Drive, The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods, Bob Harig. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome back, Bob.
Thank you.
Well, we can't say that golf is not interesting these days. So many headlines, so many fun things that you could catch Bob with all his great articles on Sports Illustrated covering everything from Tiger Woods, Jay Monahan, Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, now with Bay Hill, so many interesting things that you've been writing. But, I want to step outside the box just for a moment, Bob, because Anthony Kim, the unicorn, the guy who's come out of who knows where, shot 5 under this weekend in Hong Kong, and I wanted to get your thoughts. 76, 72, 65, nothing to write mom home about, but 5 under for a guy who hasn't really played in 12 years. I'm going to sound like a bit of a fan, but, wisdom would tell you that this is not possible. The guy hasn't played for 12 years. He initially used his wife's clubs to get back into the game, ordered a set of clubs online, and then got fitted the week in Hong Kong. I mean, Dustin Johnson was showing him how to use a TrackMan a week ago. Your thoughts on, his comeback and what all this is about?
I think what we're learning is, and there's a lot more to learn, is that maybe our expectations were too high. There was not a lot of reason to believe that he was going to be good right away. Those examples that you just gave sort of suggest a guy who has not been working at this for very long. If you've been practicing and playing and planning this for 6 months, you'd have been fitted by now. You'd probably know how to use TrackMan. It's almost like this came together 6 weeks ago, let alone 6 months ago, and he started playing again. And obviously he's got immense talent and skill. If we find out that it's only been a short amount of time, and he's even the 76, that he shot in, I mean, come on. I know that these golf courses that they've played these last 2 weeks are not Oakmont, but it's still, it's professional golf. These are not easy layouts if you are not prepared. Yeah. And I don't think he's prepared. Some of this is a little surprising, that he's not better prepared. That this maybe could have waited a little longer. But I'm just fascinated to find out what the deal is with him, because he's not done any interviews. These talks that he's been through a live person, basically just asking him the most basic stuff. There's been no interview where he has said, what have you been doing for 12 years? How long has it? There's been reports that he put the clubs away for a long time. And if that's true, and okay, now this week he's event in Macau, it's another chance to try to, to try to sharpen his skills a little bit. But I think that there needs to be some time given before anybody expects that he's going to be competitive.
I think everyone was dreaming in Technicolor of him coming out and playing well, because like you make great points, and I bet you're right. At 6 or 8 weeks he got into this and probably didn't touch a club until 3 weeks. Like, it makes sense. He didn't even have
2 months. 2 months is the timeline where he actually started playing 2 months ago. He didn't even own a set of clubs. Yeah. Just to give you an idea how out of it he is, he was dropping a ball at shoulder height at this first ball drop because he didn't know of the rule change. Right. On his first round, he didn't even have a ball marker in his pocket. He forgot. Small things like that are quite incredible, for somebody who was at his level in golf.
Yeah. No question. And that's why I sort of wonder, I mean, over the years, we've heard these reports, oh, he's playing and practicing again, but who knows if they were true? And I think we thought maybe true. Liv tried to talk to him 2 years ago, or he, them. So that made us think, okay, well, maybe he was practicing and playing. Why would he come back if he hadn't been practicing and playing? But it's quite possible that he wasn't. And if that's the case, then that's more remarkable. But the other side of it is if he was going to continue to be last, he wasn't last in this last event. He was 50th out of 54.
Right.
But if he was always going to be near the bottom and shooting poor scores and not making a lot of birdies, I think this was going to get old in a hurry. But that 65 here now we're curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, it definitely makes the story interesting. And there was talk about a documentary coming out, so maybe that's part of their publicity play is to release something about Anthony, because he looks like he's had a rough go over the last 12 years. Doesn't look as athletic as he was, and so rumors of him spending a lot of time at the bar, if you will. So we'll see. It might be an interesting documentary, and I think we're all smitten by the past because he was such a great player, and all of us, especially diehard golf fans, were rooting for him. And then this mystery disappearing for insurance reasons. So it's really it's an odd story. So
no question.
It'd be great to see him have some success, but there's more to come. I can guarantee that.
So before we pivot, Sue-Ann Hang has been doing the interviews. She's a golf commentator for Live, and it certainly looks like he will be telling his story when it is time. That's what he's told her, that when the time is right, he's going to tell everybody what's been going on in his life and why he came back. But let's pivot. Speaking of putting, he is putting well. He was actually 4th out of 55 players. And speaking of putting, Scottie Scheffler winning at Bay Hill. No surprise, but it seems like his putter has come around. Your thoughts on Scottie Scheffler, winning after a year, setting all these new records on stats. He's finally come around and come away with a win. We know how difficult it is to win on tour. Your thoughts about this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the surprise is that he's not won more in the last year, given the number of opportunities that he's given himself, and it was down to the putting. And we saw what he can do when he had a great putting week, and he had a great putting final round with 5. He didn't make a bogey on a tough course. The couple of times he got himself in trouble, he got it up and down. That's the mark of great putting. I don't think he missed a putt inside of 15 feet on Sunday. I think he had 6 of those, and he made them all. And it's going to win for you when you hit the ball like he does. The crazy thing is his ball striking was probably not to the level it had been in recent times. I mean, he was good, but it wasn't as fabulous as he's been. And so it's the guy could absolutely dominate. Decent. And it's going to be interesting to see now if he keeps this going. Did he find something at Bay Hill? He had a different putter in the bag. Did he find something? Is he making putts again? Does he contend this week? Obviously, does this portend well for him at the Masters, where he won 2 years ago?
That leads us into our last question, I suppose. Mr. Tiger Woods. Mr. Tiger Woods looks like he's going to be sitting out in March. No surprise there either. I mean, he's gone through a lot. Your thoughts on when he's coming back, if he's going to come back to Augusta, and any inside story on what's happening with him and his camp?
I have to admit, this is a surprise to me. He's the one who put out there the idea of trying to play once a month. And he came back at Riviera, which made sense. It's his tournament. To be honest, I didn't really notice anything physically wrong with him walking or back or any of that, anything out of the ordinary. And he obviously he got sick. There was a lot of conjecture. Was he really sick? Was something bothering him? I don't think he was ill. What I noticed was a guy who might have looked like he might have had a stomach issue. I mean, he hung around in the clubhouse afterward. He needed IVs. I mean, they're going through a lot of trouble to fake it. if that's not the case. He played last Monday, Seminole Pro member down in South Florida. Why would you do that if you weren't able to play? He walked. He could have had a golf cart. So maybe that round, though, told him he's not ready. Maybe he hadn't been gearing up like he would have liked. But I just thought whether you were ready or not, you needed the competition. You needed a flat golf course you could walk. You have 3 weeks after the Players to recoup and recharge before Augusta. And why aren't you doing that? It's a little bit surprising, I think. And it's just a lot to ask to go to Augusta with so little golf on.
Yeah, I was surprised, disappointed to see that he didn't sign up for Sawgrass, because you're right. It's a very flat golf course. He's familiar with it. He's won. It just seemed like the right place for him to get some reps in arguably the best field of the year. So
no question.
Real disappointing.
Yeah, in a place where, he didn't have to hit a lot of drivers. It's not a lot of rough. It's actually good for his game, a precision game, an iron game. Would have been really good for his short. I mean, there's just so much about it. Even if he missed the cut, just getting in 2 rounds, something to build on. My sense is that he wants to be careful about his body, and maybe something was bothering him. He didn't want to overdo it, and didn't want to put the Masters in jeopardy. But I still say, how good can you be at the Masters if you're not been able to play once before it?
Yeah. Right. So that's maybe an indication he'll pop up at Valspar, but I don't think he'll take a chance. I think there's too many literally moving body parts that hurt for this for Tiger Woods. We've been following his career for so long. It's pretty incredible. Bob, just wanted to say thanks for your time. Always great to hear your perspective and your unique view of the game. You could catch Bob, of course, and follow him on all social media platforms. Until next time, you have a great week, Bob.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. We'll see you out there. Good
seeing you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, it's really interesting on when Tiger Woods is going to pop up. I was surprised, but like Bob said, he showed up at Seminole, played the member guest there.
Yep.
It's kind of strange that
it's a good point. He could have rode a cart there, but he walked.
It's in his backyard. I mean, basically, he's out there, on Jupiter Island, I believe, and that's just actually a 10-minute drive or so. So that's, close. You want to probably do a competitive round, see where his game's at. Probably better than always playing on your own with the same, half a dozen buddies. He needs to get a little competitive or get around that environment where there's a lot of people, if you could feel a little bit of pressure.
There's some good players, but yet it's very casual. That's a fun event, despite there's, star-studded fields and a lot of pros. But that's a fun member guest type of environment. So
I didn't follow that. Didn't the Canadian win that? Wasn't it Mackenzie Hughes? I think Mackenzie Hughes won that with a member. He was low round. Oh, I gotta.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was a busy week last week. But yeah, like I said to Bob, that was disappointing to not have Tiger playing at Sawgrass. We're looking forward to seeing him, as everyone is.
What I'm really surprised about, Mike, is the fact that Rory McIlroy came out in his interviews and he's saying some strange things. He's saying that he'd like to see the field smaller, more condensed. It's almost like the opposite of what, everybody was talking about before, about getting tighter. Like everything sounds like he's leading towards actually playing in a live format in some shape or form. Phil Mickelson years ago said that there should be less events, and then you'll have the top players playing in more events. But that kind of goes against the PGA Tour legacy of playing, raising money for charity and having, 50 events out there.
Yeah, well, they have this past weekend, we had 2 events. So the API and Puerto Rico Open. So there's a lot of golfers playing this weekend. And It was good to see the API with the quality leaderboard, relatively speaking. Would be wonderful to see some of the DJs and DeChambeau and with all the drama that he created, trying to drive it across the par five a couple of years ago. It would have been great to see those players there too, and within a limited field, sure. But Wyndham Clark saying the same thing as Rory, which is kind of ironic because if you put all the live players back into the top 125 on the PGA Tour, there's been times when Wyndham Clark would have struggled to be in the top 100. So it's
Yep.
kind of ironic to hear him saying something like that. But we're in a weird place in golf. There's so many tournaments. Yeah, and not just live. Like PGA had 2 this week. There's Corn Ferry, DP World. There's so much golf to watch these days. So it's getting a bit watered down, and I think changing the season, going back to an annual calendar, I think is going to be a good play. We need to have that break, just like in any other sport, football, baseball, hockey. There's always an off season, which gives fans the time to want to watch golf again. So if golf having an off season, they can throw the Ryder Cup, President's Cup in there. We know that's going to happen, but the off season is going to make the heart grow longer to watch the golf again in January when we get to Kapalua. So I think there's just too much because even us for golf nuts, I can't watch all of it. Sorry, I want to play golf and I got other things to do. I can't watch all this stuff.
I'm trying to figure out what the next event is for Live. They're out in Macau. Is that right? And that event is supposedly as part of the International Series. The International Series is a part of the Asian Tour as well. So is that an Asian Tour event? Because I was reading that our friend and acquaintance, Jared Dutois, do you remember Jared? Canadian player. He was on our podcast, a great player. He's actually playing in the event in Macau. So maybe they've got 2 events out there. I'm not too sure, but the Asian Tour has an event in Macau, and Jared is looking for a caddy. If it was a little closer, maybe we'd offer our services.
Yeah, totally. I would go carry his bag. Probably have to do some push-ups first, but sure, I'm in.
And so that's really interesting. And then they're going to Miami April 5th to 7th. So I guess that's just before the Masters. The Masters are mid-April this year. So the Live Tour is out there. And the Players' Championship is happening. You got any favorites this year on the PGA Tour? It's kind of hard to kind of nail down these guys because the season just started. But any favorites leading into TPC, Valspar, and the Masters?
Well, I mean, I would love to see Will Zalatoris, complete his comeback. I like Sahith Theegala. I think he's a great player. He's not a rookie anymore, but I mean he's one of the younger guns, if you will. Max Homa is a great character. I'm not sure if his game's there to take down the trophy at Sawgrass. And of course, thinking of our Canadians, right? We've had Nick Taylor's been playing so well lately. Would be wonderful to see one of our home thoroughbreds come through. I think the big guys need to step up, right? Like Rory, Schauffele for that matter, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. These guys need to speak up and do something on the tour. Mac Hughes, another one of our Canadians. I think he's been knocking on the door. Nick and Mackenzie, sorry. I think are Canadians that'll win next. However, I wouldn't be upset if Svensson or Hads or any of the other guys, broke through and make me look like a fool. I would be totally fine with that. Good story, Nick Dunlap. After having being the first amateur since Phil Mickelson to win on tour, such a dramatic fashion, right? He needs to he needs to stay relevant, and he needs to. Doesn't have to necessarily win. Of course, he wants to, but it would be terrible to see him just disappear and not do anything for 2 or 3 years. And he's such a promising player. So I think there's a great story there.
Just a turn of topics, and this topic, which is the Full Swing series that's now out on Netflix. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the highlights or anything that's going on, but I've gone through a couple of episodes, and it's pretty interesting. And this is brought to you by Castilla Roofing in Florida. Make sure you reach out to Mike Kelly, who's a specialist in their golf department. He does clubhouses, private gated communities. So no pun intended, but Mike's got you covered. How do you like that, Mike?
That's a good one, Raf. And right there, you'll see the QR code that'll take you to Castilla Roofing's website. So check them out if you're in the Florida area. It's a big area. Reach out to Mike Kelly. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So this whole Netflix series is pretty interesting. It's season 2, and Mike, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen a couple of episodes. You got to see how everybody turns out here. It's very strange because they do a 2-part series or a 2-part episodes on the Ryder Cup, and they really cover it well. With all the hat waving, everything that went on with all the controversy with Zach Johnson. Zach's not looking too great on these episodes. The way he's in with Justin and Ricky Fowler, and how they hang out and they stay he stays at their house, and it just seems too tight. Like all those guys are joking about, maybe you could let me. Spieth was saying something at dinner like, "Oh, Zach, can you tell us that we've all made the team? Can you give us any kind of indication that we've made?" Like such an awkward question. You never ask your captain, right? And they're all laughing and joking about it.
I haven't started it yet. I will. I was quite disappointed from last season. So I had to pull myself through the last couple episodes of it.
Right.
It was underwhelming. I will check it out again because obviously it got enough interest that they've done a season 2. I will 100% get into it. Look forward to seeing this interaction between the three of them because we know that JT was a questionable pick. I think it would have been better for JT's career to have sat on the bench for this one. Maybe the vice captain or something. I think that would have lit the fire under him to not be selected for the team. May have pushed him to get down and start digging it out in the dirt and getting his game back. I think these guys need to be pushed just to throw him onto the team. Borderlines on nepotism. I think that was a mistake, and obviously the Americans paid the price. So, do you think Zach will be back to captain again next time?
I do not think so. I seriously do not think so, Mike. I don't even know what to tell you about all that, how I feel, but it's really interesting because they do a profile on Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas. Rory McIlroy is really speaking out, and they're not holding back. The guys are swearing, they're being themselves. The interviews are funny. They catch a couple of things behind the scenes, people talking, not knowing the camera was there, with Wyndham Clark and Joel Damon, Tom Kim and Matt Fitzpatrick, great profiles on them as well. So that was really cool. I would, definitely you need to check it out. It's really, really interesting.
Disclosure, I've been watching Sopranos again. I never really got into it. So that's kind of been the one show I've been throwing on here at night before crashing. I'll get onto Netflix. I want to. I definitely. I know. I saw that it came out, so I gotta watch it, and just so I can see my own curiosity. I want to see if they've made it more interesting than last year. It sounds like they have.
Yeah. Speaking of all these shows, there's a really cool scene where Rory McIlroy talks about having just 4 majors, hasn't won anything in a long time, and then Brooks Koepka wins his 5th. And that, it gets under Rory's skin. Rory's, he acts like he articulates really well. He's all right, but he seems like a big baby. There's something about his character that kind of, rubs me the wrong way. And I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's his immaturity. as a player and a person. But you know how you sometimes you gel with people and you feel like you get along with them, but you never know. I might get along with Rory amazingly, and he might dislike me as well. Right?
Yeah.
So that's just the perception of watching the show. He seems really annoying.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really heard anything per se about Rory. Usually you catch wind of players that are a good guy or a bit of an ass. He usually gets around. I won't mention any names, but you and I both know there's been a few players who are known to be an ass. So, and
Yeah.
that's their right, and their perception could be misleading as well because these guys are busy, or LPGA players too. Like these players travel all the time. They're jet lagged probably most of the time, which also speaks to how good they are. Because I know I don't play well when I'm jet lagged.
Well, think about how much they travel compared to other athletes traveling to other sports. I mean, usually you're contained to, playing a certain amount of events within a season, within your country or continent, right? There, the NFL, the NBA, the MLS, NBA, MLB. Nobody's traveling. I would compare it to baseball. Baseball's got a ridiculous schedule. They've got so
They
many
play a
games.
lot. That 160 plus games a year plus the
Yeah.
playoffs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know it's they may not be putting out as much physical effort as you do on a football field or a hockey rink, but it's like even like hockey, for example, they play within their region. So like the West Coast,
Yeah.
they'll fly, Vancouver, Seattle, Vegas. It's very short flights. They break the league up across east and west. So which is unfortunate because we don't see the Canadians or the Leafs or Bruins out in the West Coast where I am all that often. I think a couple times a year, and
Yeah.
depends on playoffs. But they control how far the players have to travel, and a lot of times they can go by bus if it's not far.
And
So
everything is taken care of. Everything's taken care
yeah,
of. I mean, the teams make sure that everything is set as far as a schedule, hotel, personal accommodations, on their needs, and they, it's very different. It's very different. We're just talking to Rob Labritz the other week, where his wife's kind of booking everything, doing everything for him. That's difficult, to schedule. He's playing 25 events last year. Pretty hard to
well, you know how it is to just to book a trip for yourself,
yeah.
for personal or for business. It's a lot of work, flights, hotels, this that. It takes time. So imagine having to book 25 trips to go play events, register for these events, make sure you got accommodations and any your sponsor commitments, get all that stuff lined up. You can't do that on your own, and a lot of the up and coming players do that by themselves, unless they are lucky to have a spouse that may help them. But people don't recognize these players who don't have all the funding to have a
Yeah.
business manager and all of that stuff, and they got to do it themselves, right? It's like I remember we had Jim McLean on talking about Keegan Bradley rolling up in his old beater, whatever Toyota. I don't remember what kind of car it was, but
Yeah.
rolling up into the high end golf club. And it's one thing I've liked about Keegan is he wasn't silver spooned. He did it because he
You're
loved
gonna feel horrible for him. We're speaking of Netflix. He's on the show, and
a clip of
you see his passion. You see his wife, how he waited for it, how he built up his whole season to get onto the team, and how he was older and he wasn't in with the guys, and he felt like he was an outsider. And he's been in the Ryder Cup before, and so that you get to see all of that, and you feel horrible for him. You really feel horrible. They didn't cover Glover, who I think should have been on the team as well. They needed some older guys with some experience to kick these guys in the nuts, and show some, maturity and experience in different ways. And I don't think he's ever going to get an opportunity again. That was his last and final chance, and by some miracle,
he was on fire before the Ryder Cup, and they also
they
had a
did.
big break before playing in the Ryder Cup. And
Yeah.
Keegan was hot, and Keegan's a grinder. He's going to
Yeah.
get in He's scrappy, and that's kind of what you need in match play. It doesn't necessarily matter with other things. It's getting inside the ropes and um, having a strong mind and being able to
Yeah.
go against your competitor. That's what match play is all about. So I mean, we could pick that team apart until the next team comes out next year, but it was a shame. And the Ryder Cup's one of those odd events because I honestly feel conflicted because my family roots are all coming from the UK, pretty much, and but we've grown up watching the US team, so like I like both teams if that's
Yeah.
um, understandable. So it's tough to
But
watch.
you could see the synergy between the Europe team and then the synergy with the US team. It's not the same. The Europeans really gel, they really come together. There's something that they do every single time. I don't know, is it because of soccer and the team sports and because it's a European sport and how they had to really grind and struggle on their tour? They don't come out of the same type of environment as the American players do with colleges, universities, and high school, and the sports, kind of mentality and religion of sport in educational institutions. It's not there. There's a different kind of bonding that takes place in Europe that doesn't happen in the U.S. They're very much individuals in the U.S. And yes, golf is an individual sport, and they only get to feel that kind of team camaraderie in college and high school if they're on a team, if they took that route. But on the most part, there's usually just one star on the golf team in colleges and universities.
A lot of times, and I think with the European crew, that goes back a couple decades. You could going back to Poulter, Westwood, all these guys, Darren Clark. They drank together. They had beers at the pub after. They traveled down. The tour was really tight. Where it went. So they traveled a lot together. And where the states, you're very segregated, like you said. Yeah, a university team would have one-star player, perhaps. Although I think in the last decade with Fowler and JT and Spieth, they have seemed a lot more connected than previous generations.
Well, they grew up together. They grew up playing against each other. AJGA events, amateur events, working up through college, high school, college, and university. No, absolutely.
Tiger always butted heads, and a lot of the Americans they just were on their own. They're individuals. So the next one will be really interesting because the Americans got pounded. So are they going to they're going to go back to the drawing board and make sure they put the best players that are the current best players. They've got to be put out on the team. No favoritism next time. So,
Mike, I'm going to take this break. If you guys are watching, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it later on, we've got a great contest going on. Stay tuned. Don't go away because we're giving away a $500 golf package from Lagmaster Sports. It's a golf giveaway. You can go on any of our social medias. We're going to be reposting things as we go, but for now it's on Twitter and Facebook. And all you need to do is follow Lagmaster Sports or Mike Dickson Golf on any of those platforms and follow us on our YouTube channel. And guess what? You're going to be entered into the contest. We're going to be giving away a training aid, the Rock Shot, a hoodie, a cap, and the Mini Club. So Lagmaster Sports is an amazing company driven by Mike Dickson. He's a top 100 golf PGA professional in the U.S., and we're really excited to partner with them. The winner will be announced on Masters Sunday, April 14th. So just follow us. All you need to do is sub on our YouTube channel, follow Mike Dickson and Lagmaster, and you're in. And we're going to be announcing that lucky winner.
All the links will be in our description, whether it's YouTube or the podcast channels and social media. We'll post the links to make it as easy as possible for you to follow the channels. And it's a great package. So we'll be posting some more pictures and clips of it between now and the Masters. So get on it. So we've just received ours, and I am desperately waiting to go to the range to try it. It's been horribly raining lately here in BC. So this week it gets sunny. I'm going to be on the range trying out the gear.
Oh, where are you playing again, Mike? What's your club? So you let everybody know where you play.
Playing out at Mayfair Lakes. So if you're looking for a game, let's do it.
We're talking about college golf and everything. I went to Humber College back in early 2000. It was the top Canadian team, all Canadian team. I didn't make the team. We had so many, we had like 70 guys in the program, lots of guys trying out for the best team in the country. But I got to play a lot of great golf. Just a shout out to Humber College if anybody's out there. Go Hawks, go. Mike, any picks coming up? Any picks and any players that actually kind of stand out over the last couple of weeks? I know it's early in the season. It's hard to tell. I've got a couple of favorites. I'd love to go through a few But if you could give me a couple of your favorites, I'm really curious to see what players. Obviously, Scheffler. Scheffler is playing amazing. He's out of the equation, just like Tiger was always out of the equation. His stats are just ridiculous. I'm looking at all his stats right here, and just across the board, just killing everybody for the last year. But the Arnold Palmer Invitational, it was a pretty good indication of who's playing well. And you had a great pick there with Zalatoris. You had a T4 over at the Arnold Palmer. He was Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Wyndham Clark's playing well, Lowry. But some of the guys I've looked at haven't been performing. I thought Victor Hovland would really come out of the blocks this year. And he really hasn't.
He hasn't yet, but that could change. I think Matsuyama is trending well. Like I said, I mentioned Thigala. I still like him. Jake Knapp's a good story. This guy made a monstrous hole the other day, but wouldn't be the first time. I think Daly made an 18 on that same hole, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. What I don't like is just the format, Mike, that we're looking at. We're going to talk about the players again, but the format with these elevated events, like the Palm, there's like 11 players or something that missed the cut. Isn't that strange? That there's only 70 some odd players playing or something, or 60 something, and I don't know what is it says 67, 60. It's like 68 players, I think. Really weird number. And they didn't even replace somebody withdrew, and they didn't even replace the player. So one of the players had to play alone on the first day.
It was wasn't it Nick Dunlop that had to play alone?
Yeah,
for 2 days. It was for 2 days. Like that, I thought was ridiculous. That there should have been some kind of a waiting list that
sure,
to put a pro out by himself at this stature of an event. And,
right.
It was tie 57th and up, made the cut. So there's like 11 guys who didn't make it, like Adam Scott, Justin Rode, Morikawa, Fleetwood. Just leave them in. Like, why even bother having a cut if this is what it's going to be? So,
what I'd love to see, Mike, is a full field event, 144 to 156, and after the first day, at least give the guys a chance, and then cut it in half.
yeah.
If you're gonna do that kind of, funneling the best players at the top, because if you're not within a certain amount of strokes, you're not going to do anything anyways. But I mean, you cut it in half, then you cut it in half again, and then you cut it in half again. So you end up with 20 players, and you get the guys who made the last 2 days. They all get paid, but they all go home. Nobody wants to watch them anyways. You don't want to see the coverage. You want to see all the guys. Pardon me?
They all get 25 grand, or do what tennis does. You just get, as you get to a certain point, you get paid a little bit. But you get left to the last 20 on the final day. Sure, that may work. Right? You get everyone. Most of them have a chance at getting there.
Yeah. So notable guys who missed the cut was like Morikawa and Rose Our Canadian Svensson missed the cut, but Hodgard, Fitzpatrick, Adam Scott. Not everybody's going to have a great week every week, but I'm really excited about some of these guys like Eckroat playing well, and Mackenzie Hughes and Auberg,
Oberg, yeah, I believe that's
Aubert, the many different ways of saying his name.
Yeah, it gets butchered a little bit, and I think we just did that ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good players. Um, I mean, there's a lot of depth on the tour. I know um, we mentioned that it'd be great to see some of the live names combined in here, but there's still, when you look at this field for the API, it's a pretty deep field. You've got now 10 guys coming from the DP World Tour automatically, like the Frenchman Pavon and there's a few
Yeah.
other ones. They, it just people don't know, they're not household names yet.
Yes. Yeah.
Give them some time, but it's we'll see. We're going to go through another couple seasons of this craziness until I think golf stabilizes. And give it a more time. We're probably going to see Live versus PGA at some point in a Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah. They should just have, outside of the 4 majors, 8 events on the PGA Tour, 8 events on the Live Tour, and there's your season. You got 16 events plus 4. That's 20 events, and then you have a decent off season, and then everybody's anticipating all those because everybody's going to show up. If it's a tight schedule like that, obviously there's going to be more events than that because I haven't even factored in the FedEx season-ending series, but yeah, the fall series. But with the fall series, yeah, that brings it up to 24 events. That's enough.
Yeah, and a lot of times in the past, before they did the split season, the fall events that's when the up and comers would be out there trying to earn the points for their card. You didn't really see the top tier players going to Vegas or any of those tournaments. It was usually the up and comers, and so it kind of worked. So I think time will settle all of this. This is still fresh. There's a lot of Live is in a growth phase, and they're still trying to figure out their niche. PGA Tour is all over the place, but again, like Tiger this week has announced equity stake with SSG. Isn't that correct?
I think so. Well, in other news, just really quickly, guys, before we let you all go, just thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our channels. We're pretty excited to be bringing in some great guests. Big thanks to Lagmaster Sports. Make sure you take a look at their website, follow them on social media, as well as Castilla Roofing. Mike, I'm pretty excited about this season. The PGA Tour Champions is always very exciting. With Joe Durant's victory. That's pretty cool. What happened this weekend? I thought Stuart Sink was going to take it. He was kind of like doing really, really well. And, there's so much great golf out there. I mean, even the LPGA is exciting to watch. And there's always going to be a big turnover. You talked about how we don't know these people, these names. They're not household names. Golf has always been like that. It's up to the broadcaster and the journalists to bring out the stories and make it wild and interesting. Everybody's got a story. Every single person, no matter how dry a person may be, they do have a background. They did have to get there. And everybody goes through struggles and challenges, and it's always exciting to hear something new about someone new. Once you get to know them, you become a fan, right? You end up following them, and then you get to know them. So,
Well, you think about it, Faraday, his show was fantastic because there's times where I wasn't Sergio's biggest fan, and then you watch him on Faraday, and you're like, you know what? Like, you hear his perspective, and I actually became more of a fan just from a feature like that. And there's quite a few people on Faraday that you get an insight to look at their life. and you realize your heart grows a bit warmer for them. So you don't know. It's easy to look at them when they're in battle mode in between the ropes and the fairway, and they look like they're uptight and not smiling and friendly. But you got to remember this: they are trying to earn money. They're trying to earn
Yeah.
points. They're trying to earn their way into other events. There's so much going on out there. You can't expect them to all be like Chichi Rodriguez and
You know, to younger people, they don't even know what you're talking about. Chichi Rodriguez
no, but
with his club. Every time he put the put the ball in, he would do his sword moves.
so there's a few guys who got good character out there, and it would be great to see more of it. But they're playing for so much money, so you can understand why they bear down and are working hard to focus because their career depends on it.
So, Mike, we're just going to drop this show. Thanks for watching. I'm just going to throw out some tee times for this week on the Players Championship. They just came out 30 minutes ago on PGAtour.com. Rory's playing with Hovland and Spieth. Great pairing to watch. They're doing the right thing. Remember, this is their flagship event. It's like watching, if you've never watched the Players Championship, it's their flagship event. It's like a major. It should be a major, but it's not. It's sort of the fifth talked about major. Fowler's playing with Scheffler and Thomas. That's another great pairing. We got Cantlay, Scott, and Aubert. That's a great pairing as well. That's Adam Scott. Scheffler, Fleetwood, and Burns. Fitzpatrick, Matsuyama, and Homa. You know, I'm a big fan of Matsuyama and how he's playing, and with his win a couple of weeks ago. Pretty incredible player. You know, I love it. And I even like a little gritty player like Brian Harmon, right, who won the Open last year. He's playing with Morikawa and Wyndham Clark.
Good. Yeah, this is it. This is kind of the beginning of major season, right? So now that let's go.
All right, for Mike, I'm Raphael. Thanks for joining us. Please do us a favor. We're trying to grow the channel. New content coming out this summer. Follow us, subscribe on our social medias. It means a lot. I mean, it's just a click of a button, but it really goes a long way. And until next time, you guys have a great week.